this is Main Street from across the street, what it looks like going down our street. As you can see, we have a hotel and Hollywood Designs and things of the nature. Again, it's just a very small town, very much a little American town trying to survive. So this is so far so much our town. How else could we phrase it? Across the street neighbors, see, we have a big empty field. Yep. Little birdie.
I had a large group of friends growing up, and I had different cultures. Because I didn't care. I didn't care who you were, where you came from, what you were about, who you believed in. Let's just play basketball. And school was fun until we got about high school. Once you get high school, you know, things start to change. And then I noticed myself getting in more trouble, you know. And I really wouldn't be doing anything. I'll be sitting here, the benches uptown. You know, they're uptown to sit on, all right? Well, you can't sit on the benches uptown. They would write you a ticket for loitering. So I'll stop and tie my shoe. It cost me 85 bucks. I got a loitering ticket for sitting down tying my shoe. And it's just stuff like that. I mean, anything you do is just petty stuff that adds up. And once it starts adding up, your name starts getting out there more. The society will find a way to push you out. And the way they pushed me out was I got dropped off on the outside of town not to come back by the officer who lived behind me.
I can't really comment on it because he was juvenile.
When I got booted out of Hoopeston, I started staying at my girlfriend's house, which is now my wife. And then we moved to Danville. And that's when we started the towing service. And that wasn't paying enough bills, so I came back to Vermilion Iron here in Hoopeston. I worked there for just a couple weeks, and I didn't want to die. They put me on the grinder. I stepped into a mound of shavings, and I took a step forward and lost my footing and just about cut my finger off. Went out to Dr. Wu. I was there, I don't know how long I was there. He hooked me up with some morphine. Pain went away. You start hacking up black stuff from being out there. It'd be colder inside the building than it is outside the building during the winter. The heat sensor is just this little bitty box that sits up here that blows out, you know, piss warm air. Just enough to keep the frost off your face. And you're working around liquid iron, and it's that cold. It's bad in there, man.
I didn't talk to my mom for about 8 years. And then I started talking to her. She said, why don't you go up north? There's a lot of work up there. Oh, she said work. She didn't specify what kind of work, you know. So I agreed. I came up here, and then me and her didn't see eye to eye. And then a friend of mine told me that the ironworks factory here was looking for people. So I came and applied here. And I thought it was a pretty good town. I mean, nice, quiet, to a point. It's quiet, just like any other American town.
When I first came back into town, basically I was visiting my mom, and then she told me about this place here, saying it was up for sale.
This is a downtown motel, recently taken over by a young man named Jason Matthews. I'm gonna go see if I can pester him in a minute. So this is where a lot of people stay when they come visit town. He just took it over. He's a 23-year-old proprietor, but we'll go interview him. Let's go see if we can pester him. This is Jason Matthews, who just bought the hotel last November and has been fixing it up. And runs Jay's Cafe. Hi, Jason. If people come to Hoopeston, what can they expect from like the downtown motel?
Place is clean, good food, good company.
And they ain't expensive.
No, it's not. It's $30 for one night. The former owner had been dead for a year before I got this place, and it was ran by the management. So the management naturally didn't do anything. The prostitution, room 6 and 7 down here was prone to that, I guess. Dope dealing. There's a lot of drugs coming through here. Meth is a big problem here. When we first started breaking up the rooms here, we started breaking up a couple meth labs over here.
Before he took it over, it was Meth Central.
This is a large agricultural area, and so there's a lot of anhydrous available for the farm. The criminal element decided they want to go out and not only steal the anhydrous, but then they want to put themselves at risk by manufacturing the meth and then distributing it through the town. And if all the ingredients are accessible, so why not?
We definitely have our cooks, and the old saying with methamphetamine is one cook breeds 3 more. One will teach the other, and then it becomes a contest to see who can make the best batch.
This town thrives on sweet corn because at one point in time it was actually sweet corn capital of the world. The school's named the Corn Jerkers.
Not very much sweet corn anymore. Since our canning industries have closed, we don't grow a lot of sweet corn here. It used to be the sweet corn capital of the world, but there's not a lot grown anymore.
We literally went from overachievers to underachievers in a 10 to 15 year span, I think. You can probably credit that to the interstate system. We are so far from an interstate. The rail service isn't what it used to be. And I think NAFTA probably has a strong bearing on it also.
This is part of Hoopeston's biggest problem. We got a lot of empty storefronts. It's very hard to do business in town because, we've got Walmarts down the way. We have all sorts of problems. So a lot of the businesses have closed down. This is one of the most unique things about the town. It's got corn jerkers. It's the idea of the corn jerker. It's a unique mascot. It has to do with a lot with the heritage of this being a corn town.
Back when I was growing up here, the downtown area had, store after store after store. There was a grocery store downtown. Folks were downtown all the time. There was a five and dime store, a couple of restaurants. Right now, the hospital is probably the biggest employer. That's good for the hospital, but, it's kind of sad that the hospital is the biggest employer. So I don't know. I guess that being able to attract younger folks, there's not much for young folks in this town anymore.
There is a curfew, but I see kids out on the street at midnight walking around. I'm hopeful that the Wiccan mentality doesn't get involved with the youth.
When you get kids who are on drugs, especially methamphetamine, where it starts changing your personality, you start getting in that groove to where everybody hates me. I can't go nowhere. I can't have no money. I can't get a job here. You hear about somebody trying to commit suicide all the time. A guy who owned a successful body shop, making some money. He was doing good. Shot himself in the head. He got that depressed being here. If you ever sit out and watch this little liquor store that has a drive-through window, the line never stops there. People cash their checks there, they buy their lotto tickets, and get their fifth of Jack and Coke. That's their mentality. This is a 30-unit motel. I got 20 people living here. They get their Social Security. There are so many people on Social Security here. Unemployment.
After you get done with the harvest, you can always go to a grain elevator and work through the winter, which is exactly what I did because there wasn't very much work here. But like right now, this month, perfect time to go do odd jobs. Perfect. Got the Sweet Corn Festival coming in. It's a big ordeal. It's a big money maker here this time of year. And it's
being very close, it's annoying.
There are a lot of people in the town who don't want it to change. They want it to be what it was. They want to see the factories come back. They want the world that was 20 years ago.
In the 80s and the 90s, when other communities thrived in this area, for example, Bloomington, Normal, smaller communities, Hoopeston always just missed the boat. And I'm not sure how or why that happened, but it's extremely frustrating.
When you go to start something here, everybody's against you. The whole tide is against you. Because the first thing they want to know is where you from, where you at, what you're offering, and what's your religion. If you're not Christian, and if you're in Hoopeston, you can ask the pagans, they will try to run you out.
This other building, as you're walking up to it, I gotta get that billboard done. Gotta get some paint on it, some other things, but we do a good job with it, as you can see. Yep, and right there is where our internet comes in. See, as you can see, we have a lot of open space around us, and that's our billboard we're going to eventually finish up. That's our goal. There's Pizza Walk, or Pizza King and China Walk. Two of our local eaters. The Subway is no longer there. It's moved over onto 1 and 9. This is the Wildon building, which they continue to try to give away.
This is actually the largest building in town, or the tallest building in town. but they decided to give it away to somebody who can supply 20 jobs to help blow life through the economy. That's what draws people's attention. It's free.
It's the tallest building in town. I don't remember exactly what year it was built, but it is a totally fireproof building.
It was actually built about 50 years ago by McFerrin, and his boys were named Billy and Don. That's where you got the name Wildon, the Wildon building.
Back in 1986, I believe, it was a bank, and I worked as a collections agent there after I returned from New York for a while. It's a beautiful building.
It's a very beautiful building. The face of it's marble, the inside of it's like 80% marble. It's a very beautiful, very stable building.
I can let you in.
Hoopeston is the cheapest real estate in America. I bought a 2-story building with apartments upstairs, and it was owned by Subway, so it was up to code. And I bought that for $8,000.
We don't face the high cost of living. We bought a beautiful home with 2,600 square feet for $130,000. It's at least $250,000, maybe $300,000 home.
I mean, my living expenses were cut tremendously. People said, why did you move from Virginia Beach? And I said, well, I love my townhouse there. And I loved having the washer dryer and everything right there, because now I do laundry at a laundromat here. But it was 2.5 times as expensive to live there.
We came here because the fact that our expenses in Chicago were so great to run this business. And Don was going to come down here. And he was going to run the switch school, and we're going to get a shipping crew out of Danville. Our original goal was Danville. Don's from Danville and everything else. But people kept bringing us up here to show this to us, show this to us, show this to us.
Both the necessary space and the necessary help in Chicago were rather prohibitive financially. So we started thinking, it would be nice if we could get a bigger space, but we really could not do that in metropolitan Chicago. So we started looking for things maybe downstate somewhere. And it just so happened that there was a building advertised in Hoopeston that seemed to meet our needs.
They were looking for a place about 3 years ago, probably pretty close to 4 now. But they were actually looking at this old meat locker plant over here, and all it is the big square brick building.
So we came down here and we looked at the building. And it was a beautiful building. At the time, we thought it would be perfect, so we went ahead and we entered into negotiations to buy it. Well, so far, so good.
When they first started coming down here, when the mention of it, of witches coming to Hoopeston, then here comes the church rallies. They're marching against the witch school.
Here's the thing that caused the whole problem. I sent out one press release.
One of those press releases was about the new building that we were going to get.
Witch school forming in Hoopeston. And I talked about how this witch school was coming to Hoopeston. I was going to close the deal about a week and a half. So, it's not uncommon for businesses to put out a press release.
So there turned out to be I guess, a number of, I hate to call them conservative Christian because they're not really conservative, they're pretty radical. So let's say radical Christian opposition.
If you ask me, it was ridiculous. All they're doing, work for the devil. They're pagans and this and that. Okay, how would you know that they're doing work for the devil? I mean, were you there personally? Did the devil call you and say, hey, I got these people coming into town?
As I recall the next events, we came down here on a day when there was going to be a city council meeting to answer people's questions.
There was an informal city hall meeting in which they showed up at, which was somewhat disturbing.
No pitchforks, no burning torches, but there might as well have been. One of the things we got were stacks of petitions that had been brought in saying the town did not want us. Certainly the people packing the courthouse that night did not want us and made it very clear.
Steve Nelson was the pastor of the church here. Steve Nelson had this bright idea to send him a check to bribe him not to come to town.
Steve Nelson had sent us this $1,000 check in reference to a comment that had been made that if our down payment money were refunded to us, we would go. So we got the check, and it was already no good. It had had a stop payment put on it, I think, before it was even mailed.
I'll tell you exactly what it was. It was a very focused group of evangelicals, led by Steve Nelson. He's in the wrong. He's deadly in the wrong because the little check that he sent in, the sort of thing is there. He took money from people to chase us out, but he won't go on video camera. He won't debate me directly. I believe in reincarnation. I believe we're coming back here.
Organizers of the Wicca School went to Hoopeston to quell the fears of townspeople.
If I had my way about it, I would rather you wouldn't be in our town.
And now they won't. Ed Hubbard, the school's director, says he's surprised by all the heat.
It's unexpected. I guess because I'm so used to being an American, where Americans can settle where they will and follow whatever religion that they want to.
Used to be a town of, work and factory. Now it's a town of retirement and people are settling down. I don't think it will go over very well.
Everybody's going to think witches are evil and all this and that.
Well, I guess I'll make my statement at this point that, yes, I am opposed to it.
That's what the mayor told a packed city council meeting. He says he has no legal power to kick the Wiccans out of town, but they went voluntarily.
As you can tell, this is no small minority.
At least 400 people signed a petition against the witch school. Pastor Timothy Kowalczyk of the United Methodist Church near Hoopeston was one of them.
I believe they have a different worldview. I believe they have a different lifestyle, and I believe it's conducive to the values that I hold.
Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live.
Hubbard says he expected the Bible verse to spark controversy, but don't believe the stereotypes.
They believe we're Satanists. Let's put it in brass tacks. They believe we're Satanists, and that couldn't be further from the truth.
We ended up leaving, not feeling particularly safe, so we left very quickly. And we went to Danville, where we stayed at the home of Crystal High Corral, who was at that time first priestess of the Correllian tradition. And I stayed with her overnight, and the others got a hotel room.
Between the protesting and, the church is sending them checks to, trying to bribe them to leave town, they actually left. The police chief, the new police chief we got now, Mark Dronger, actually located them and asked them to come back.
We have a monthly meeting called Neighborhood Watch, where we bring up monthly topics, and I thought that was an ideal forum, so we asked them to come and speak.
The police chief had asked us to speak to the Neighborhood Watch, and we agreed to honor that. What we found out is that while there was opposition in town, it was far from town-wide. And the people who were at that meeting, only a small number of them actually came from here. They had essentially bussed people in.
To be perfectly honest, there were a lot of people at this town meeting that faces I didn't recognize and haven't seen since. I don't know where they were from. I'm not sure if they were from another community. I'm guessing that they were.
The petitions turned out in many cases to be highly dubious. People collecting the signatures were doing things like going to retirement homes and saying, "You don't want Satanists here, do you?"
By September, people were calling me coward, and so it became a position of honor for me. So September 1st, I opened the broom closet with every belief that I was going to be burned out.
But we ended up taking a small store up the street on Market Street, which we called the Broom Closet. We stayed there not really terribly long, but it allowed us to interface with people, show them we were really pretty much just like they were. I forgot to mention this in the story. The day we came down here, the very first place we went in town, oddly enough, was this building. The door was open. It was near where we had parked. And the lady who was here was moving out. I've always, ever after, kind of felt that that was like a big spiritual arrow saying, "You will be here."
The building itself is a gentleman by the name of Pete Davis just lost a business, and he made us a deal to take over the building. So when we were over there renting this small shop for 6 months, he says, "Why don't you take over this building?" And I came in here with a Chicago's eye going, "Oh, that's so cheap. It's a cheap building. Look how big it is." And so I took the building. It was big enough. But it was also the most abandoned building in Hoopeston. At their 0 point. This is literally the center of town. Right behind it where the two trains met, right behind there. Their oldest building, it was filthy, it was dirty. And that's basically how the town felt about us. We were filthy, dirty, sort of people. So for me, both spiritually and physically, my journey through Hoopeston is this building. Oh, okay, you're already filming. Hi, welcome to Witch School. This is a day in life of Witch School. This is me getting started in the morning. Basically, this is my secret door to my secret room where I stay. I actually live in the Witch School property. Make sure this is our Magic TV wall. And this used to be my room, and I converted it over because it's the most quiet room in the place. And I kind of hid behind the wall. And so that's it. I mean, so I hide behind the wall, come out. People always make jokes about my secret lair. But let me go ahead and show you what around Witch School today. Thank you. Don, you already began filming. Good morning, this is a day in the life of Witch School. I'm Ed Hubbard, CEO of Witch School. Not been recording anybody?
Nothing.
So this means it's...
Means you need to talk to people again. There is no sound. The mic was not on. I'm so glad I...
Sit that down for a second. Okay, now that I've completely screwed up the film. Wow, there's a lot of light behind you.
Too much? Can you not see me?
Well, I can see you, just barely.
But when you're filming toward light, it's difficult.
Yeah, turn towards me a little bit. That's better. No, not that much better. Why don't we move this way? This is Don. Or how would we phrase it? The most proper Right Reverend. How do you put your whole title, Don?
The Most Reverend Donald Lewis Highcorrell.
Okay. Everybody knows him as Don.
Yeah.
Very direct, but actually he is...
No, I only sign with the titles for very formal documents or announcements.
Take two. Kathy. Hi, this is Kathy. She recently joined us. She is in charge of our mini spells. And Kathy is a lifelong Hoopeston resident. And we'll talk a little bit about yourself real quick. What brought you here to Witch School?
The job.
The job. This is Rihanna, our wand maker. She comes in once a week about. This is a talking stick she's made, pearl and magnetic hematite.
Yes.
And citrine.
And citrine.
Mm-hmm.
And of course quartz crystal.
Double terminated.
Religion has the ultimate power in our world. No matter what I do in my life, Wicca, at least my version of Wicca, will not be as powerful while I'm alive as until I'm dead.
There's nothing more important to me than my faith. I can say that without a doubt because I rely on it heavily. How about that for a Freudian slip, right? But I do rely on it.
I don't believe in religion. I'm actually a reverend in a church in Milford, and it's Universal Ministries. But they don't touch base on any religion, just believe in God. And that's what I find, you just believe in God. Okay, you don't even have to believe in God if you don't want to. I'm still active in it. I still go down there. Doug Hickman is actually the minister down there. I go down there and bullshit with him a little bit.
Jason's I think he's got a pretty exciting future ahead of him if he just keeps listening to what's in his heart and soul. He's taken a kind of a beat up old motel, trying to convert it, trying to make it available for people that need low income. He's opening a little restaurant. It looks like he's trying to do that right to help people. God's going to use that boy. And I call him boy. He's not a boy, he's a man. But when you get to be 50, you can call younger people boy.
The reverends in the area here will not marry you if you've already had a child. Now, this is 2006. Most people don't wait anymore. You know, it's like a theory, you want to test the milk before you buy the cow thing.
Seemed like the churches around here, if you were married before and had kids, wouldn't do weddings for people. We opened our first church in an old barn out at my house because we needed a physical location to satisfy government regulations as a church. That one got knocked down by a tornado. We scavenged the wood out of it, converted this old station into a chapel, which I always said is kind of neat because we converted the repairs of autos to the repairs of the soul here. We wanted to reach beyond Milford, which is 800 people. In Milford, we have 38 to 40 members on the books as local members. In the world at large, since we put it online, the Lord's blessed us. We've got 165,000 ordained ministers and affiliated congregations of 500,000 today. We're kind of a poor church. We don't mind that. We find that the real wealth is the blessings God gives us.
The Correllian tradition was founded by my family. As I remember things growing up, we were very big on the issue of the ancestors, on ideas of reincarnation, incarnation, and also a lot of what is sometimes called kitchen magic.
I was a fundamentalist, and I picked up the whole Armageddon philosophy, the whole thought. And believe me, if you would have asked me at 10 years old or 20 years old, I didn't think I was going to make it to the year 2000. I bought that hook, line, and sinker. My mom was a child of Chicago, and she studied tarot, she studied all sorts of metaphysics, and so 8, 9, 10 years old, I'm studying metaphysics as well. 14 years old, my mom, dad break up. My mom moves in with a lesbian, my church wouldn't support me. They tossed me out, basically. They tried to send me to other churches. When I needed them most, they kind of just went, oh, we don't want to deal with this.
I became a priest at 13, which is very unusual, but in hereditary families is not as unusual. I became the masculine head of the tradition when I was not much older, partly because I was the only one.
Met Don at 28 years old, of all places at a psychic fair. Don introduced me to the idea of Wicca.
Prior to 1979, there was no one who was not a member of the family. After that, we began taking people from outside the family. And by the time we came to be online, of course, we were open to everyone.
From there, Don introduced me to Wicca. Within about 2 years, he says, you have what we need. I would like you to become a minister. Almost the opposite of what I got from Christianity. And I said, yes, I'd like to be a minister.
Behold, when you cut apart the place between the worlds of humankind and of the mighty ones, a circle of art to focus and to contain the powers we shall raise herein. Behold, and the circle now be cast, so let it be.
So let it be. Behold, I invoke you, O ancient ones of the West. I call unto you, O lands, O gods. Here I am, fire I am, more than heaven, spirit I am. Here I am, fire I am, more than fire and spirit I am.
I, lightning and fire.
These are the new pages to be added to the Book of Life. On them are written the names of new Corellians who have joined the tradition. May these our siblings now be blessed.
To the goddess, to the god, to us.
To the goddess, to God, to us.
It's so easy to make us look like a cult. But the way I combat that is my doors are always open. We don't have guns in here. I refuse to have a gun in here. We don't have weapons here where I'm not going to let them turn me into a Waco. I'm not going to turn them into a Ruby Ridge. Come on, this is a perfect place. This has got to be like the weirdest place in the world.
I would like to thank Edward for doing the food for us.
The Daily Spell was a daily email list that carried initially interesting information related to Wicca, and it grew into a very large group of people. And from out of that was born the Witch School.
I saw Phoenix University doing it. I saw DeVry College doing it. I go, oh, we can do this.
Well, the whole concept of the Witch Church, I think, is excellent. I have pros and cons. You don't find a church when you go there, you walk into a bookstore. I do not believe faith should be made into a religious bookstore or mall.
Nobody likes the fact that we are a publishing business. Witch School ultimately is a publishing education business. Mini Spells is one of the projects I'm hoping, again, talk about a little bit of celebrity status, talk about a little bit of popular items. I'm hoping that they become a popular novelty. We have something we call basics, and that's like getting a job, you know, all healing, health. And then we have the ones that are actually Wicca spells. Everything on the top row is basics. Some of them cross into it, but like fairies, you know, the 4 fairies, we have these 4 fairies that we would use like in the spring. This one right here is the spring. This one's Beltane. That's Umbach. So we gotta divide it up by that. Between the ages of 15 and 28, I flirted with a lot of different philosophies. I studied Scientology. The idea of being clear, understand, trying to become aware. Dianetics teaches that you have to become aware that you have emotions. I was hit when I was 5 years old with a belt across my back, you know, really hard, and left a bruise. It was in a red room. And I never... So 5 years old, hit in a red room. I would break down and cry a number of years later when I was in a red room. That's when I started doing the Dianetic methods of doing it, and I realized, because I as a child, it was fairly, you know, my parents believed in hitting way too much. But that kind of just triggered that response. And because I got through it, I was more comfortable in red rooms. Never thought this was going to happen. If you'd asked me 10 years ago about becoming a minister, I'd have probably laughed at you. It wasn't my goal, but when God calls you, God calls you.
I think that everyone must remember that what Spirit intends is not always what we intend, and that we must be flexible enough to allow for it. Because, of course, when we don't allow for it, Spirit whacks us with the spiritual 2x4.
As I like to say, God slapped me with his 2x4 and said, pay attention, and that's when I started really pushing and developing the Universal Ministries as a legal church.
When Hoopeston was founded, at one point in time, it was called the Holy City because of the number of churches that we have. I think we have every denomination of church that there is.
Two of the 3 last mayors that ran during the election, 2 of them, they said they'd get rid of the witches. That was their big thing. That was one thing they were going to get done during their term, was get the witches out of Hoopeston. One didn't say that. He didn't say that, and he got elected. He actually won by 6 votes.
When I was working at Dollar General and the elections were on for the new mayor, he comes in and he asks me, he goes, well, are you going to vote? I straight up told him, I said, look, dude, I really don't vote. He goes, well, what can I do to change that? And one thing did come to mind is in order to get your water turned on You have to pay an $80 deposit. Why so much? He goes, well, I wasn't aware of that. And I said, yeah, that is. I said, I mean, come on, there's a lot of people here that are poor. You know, they can't afford an $80 deposit. He goes, I'll go ahead and change that. And I said, all right. So I went and I voted that year. And lo and behold, my buddy moved up here about 4 months ago. He said, man, he goes, you believe I had to pay an $80 deposit for the water?
That's not in my realm of responsibility. But you see, the people that experience that are people who have unpaid bills, water bills. They don't pay their water bill, bingo, you turn your water off. If you don't have money in your pocket to go to the grocery store, what do? I can't hear you, Gomer. What do?
You work to get that money?
That's right. The WIT school has never been a problem with me, and it's not going to be. I'm not going to stick my nose in there and say, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that, unless they're breaking the law. If they're breaking the law, that's something different. So far, to my knowledge, it hasn't happened. So, I'm not going to judge people. Only the Lord does that.
Not everyone in Hoopeston who is Wiccan is part of our organization. There are many Wiccans here and other pagans, such as Druids, who have nothing to do with us. So those people who think we brought Wicca to Hoopeston are seriously mistaken. It was already here.
Witches and pagans are just now starting to come out. You didn't hear about them until 5-10 years ago.
You take the average Christian mentality as they've been brainwashed in the world from small children on up, and they're taught this is evil. So these people, in order to share their faith, have to do it quietly, just as Christians do in the Middle East, Wiccans have to do in this country.
Many people who are Wiccan, who are other kinds of pagan, who are metaphysical, including metaphysical Christians, are in what we would call the broom closet.
Here, if you mention that you're a pagan, they don't slaughter you physically. They try to cut you down economically and mentally.
The success of witchschool.com is based on the fact that so many pagans are closeted and had no outreach until we were there. I know people whose husband or wife doesn't know they're pagan. Lots of people, and we're talking people in their 50s, whose parents don't know they're pagan and will not let their parents know. Might have a little altar in their bedroom, but it looks like something else, just in case. Which is a horrible way to live.
My wife's pagan. Okay? And I don't care what religion she is, love her to death. The worst thing I've seen her do is look in a witch catalog, and some of those outfits are pretty sexy, so I don't care.
I have been publicly Wiccan since junior high school. And I've never really had a problem except that one night in Hoopeston. I'd say a huge chunk of this country is afraid of what would happen to them if they were not in the closet. Considering that most people in this country are pretty open-minded, it's sad that anyone feels that way because of a minority of radical Christians.
It's that 700 mentality. You know, everybody has been taught that you're supposed to be a good Republican and follow the American way. You know, the American way is not always God's way.
crystal web is an energetic engine.
We're burying crystals everywhere. You know, people believe it or don't believe it, but we're burying crystals all over the world.
Well, we don't have that much in Asia or Central Africa, but most of the rest of the world, there are points. Limited parts of South America. But we do have things in Africa, Australia, parts of Asia, Europe, Central America, and of course North America, where we have the most. What people do is that they bury their crystal, they enact the ritual to create the access point.
We basically hold them into us, right, and we attune them. Oftentimes we wash them in pure water, water mixed with salt.
The planet Mars was very close to the Earth a few years ago. One would expect from that high emotion, arguments. We tried to use the web to attune all of our people to make sure they got the positive side of the Mars energy. That's an example of what you do with it.
50 years ago, people said, well, you can't do things like that with crystals. But what's a computer but a series of crystals put in the proper alignment?
Circles, by their nature, intensify energy if the energy is moving in the circle. It's what circles do. A square has a very different effect on energy and is much more focused on stability and trying to really anchor something. In the way that the crystal web is constructed and used, these principles of geometric magic are very important. It comes out of two different origins. It comes out of the fact that we have a traditional practice of burying crystals to act as an anchor to a magical working, together with the actual idea of the crystal web as a communications device, which was come up by Edward and the Newcastle Society before we kind of merged.
Me and Don have been working for a long time, and it is different. It's really, I don't know how to explain it.
The other interesting aspect of the crystal web has to do with the image of the spider, because of course a web is a spider's tool.
There's been a long joke that me and Don, I don't know if you've ever heard it here, but in some places, that Don and I are like been lovers. We're not.
The image of spider as universal goddess, winding the web of the universe.
But you get this sort of thing. There's been the relationship of zombie Don and Machiavellian Ed. Yeah, that's been a big one in our community. But Don and I have really different strengths, so it's been interesting. Don is a frustrating person to work with. He's such a perfectionist. He takes a long time with projects. He is really careful with his words. He will wear a tie in the middle of 90-degree weather. He doesn't care. It's for him, he's always proper.
Up until the 90s, my career as a Wiccan priest and co-head of tradition was probably secondary to my everyday life.
He's the head of his religious order. And it's a large one. And people have come to it so fast. And I will tell you that people are coming at it at such a quick pace. It's frightening. It's scary.
I came to the point that teaching and doing the other things one does as a priest became my day job. It almost crowded other things out. It's like we have Don and the Corellian Chancellor, and Don's gone. I wonder where on earth he might have put it. Like I say, I've had an assistant helping me to transcribe video, and I'm just now discovering that he has not put everything back in a place from which I can find it. And of course, the thing about this tripod is it has a little handle on top, which makes it a little bit easier to control. Oh, Jason, how do you even do that? I normally just take the script right to the camera because it's the only way I've been able to figure out how not to look like I'm looking at something. I think it looks better to have a more vertical line. And at the time I started doing these, between living in Chicago and coming here, not everything made it. So I didn't really have a good suit jacket, so this made the next best thing. This is our little connecting device. Most often I am myself the cameraman, which is, particularly when we've been doing more complex pieces, a very interesting experience. One more little button. Magic is the technique of creation. Magic is a method of creating, changing, or affecting circumstances through the manipulation of energy. Magic is accomplished through the focus of willpower and emotion, which shape energy. Magic is best used for self-improvement, prosperity, and healing. To create a personal crystal access point, you will need a crystal and a place to bury it. Dig a hole in which to bury your crystal. A garden trowel will prove an excellent instrument for this, but any digging tool may be used. When I wrote the lessons, the hardest part was trying to remember what someone would not know. I had to stop and recognize that I could not write this as a high priest writing for other high priesthood. The Orthodox religions prefer the written word because it is, theoretically at least, straightforward and unambiguous. The Orthodox religions prefer the written word because it is, theoretically at least, straightforward and unambiguous, allowing of literal interpretation. The written word ceases... God damn it! It's gonna kill me. However, while numerology has undoubtedly become important to Tarot, according to Barbara Walker, in her book, The Woman's Encyclopedia of Myths and Symbols, the Romani considered the tarot to be their people's Veda.
Yeah. Are you doing something?
Yeah. It's okay. Its most famous aspect is the well-known Tree of Life, which arranges the numbers the trials of a filmmaker. Five. Ruled by Mercury, the 5 represents the element of the suit in a state of transformation and movement, but also a consequent fear of the unknown and unseen future. God fucking damn it. Okay, try that again. 5.
He's just an individual who expresses himself. And like I said, at the end of the day, it's frustrating. It's, it's wonderful when it does. We get into fights, we get into big things, but at the end of the day, I love the guy. I mean, I would do almost anything for him. I have. Lots of things.
This is one of mine. Anything that's in here probably has artwork from me, but let me see if I can find some other. It's another one of mine in the COG newsletter.
It's not about money for him. It's not about anything. It's about, can he put pen to ink? Can he put, pixels to the computer? Can he put art to the thing? Can he express this really heartfelt?
See, I wonder what's in here. The Wiccan Pagan Press Alliance, Volume 1, Issue 1, my cover. This was done by Silver Ravenwolf, who was later better known as an author. Silver Ravenwolf is often criticized, this is issue 2, often criticized by people who usually have no clue of her extensive career before she ever wrote the books. She founded the Wiccan Pagan Press Alliance, and a number of other important things. It's one of my covers for Harvest from 1986. Another one from the same issue of these. This is called the Crone Papers. And the Crone Papers were published by a lady named Grey Cat, who later headed the North Wind tradition.
Our first relationship before we actually became friends was, you write the stuff, I'll get it sold. You do the art, I'll get it sold, and I'll take a commission. And now it's gone way beyond that. We're brothers. Me and Don are brothers. We call ourselves brothers. We really mean that. There isn't anything. We're going to grow old together. We're in this for the rest of our lives.
We lived in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And before that, we were transplants from New Jersey. So we went from New Jersey to Virginia to Hoopeston. The business is beads and botanicals. I've had people say, oh, you really belong more in Greenwich Village than you do here. But for me, it's kind of nice to bring into town something that I think is a little bit classy, a little eclectic. This was actually my first year where I wasn't on the festival circuit. I used to do Renaissance fairs and music festivals and things like that. Did the medieval fair at the Cloisters in New York City for almost a dozen years. I didn't do it last year, and I'm not doing it this year, but I did it for a number of years. 10,000 people walk by. We don't have 10,000 residents in town. I'm really looking forward to continuing to grow the business. I mean, I'm not a multimillionaire or anything else like that. I'm working to support myself and my son. Basically, this is a decent place to do that.
Kathy Novak is a really interesting person. She's been a festival goer for years. She knows everybody. I'm still fascinated by her.
There are people with money here in this town, and there are, as far as like having extra money to spend, and then there are also people who maybe don't have a lot of money to spend, but are still looking to do different things. Would you please shut that off?
Sure. She wanted to be so much in charge of her life that she didn't have a lot of room for me. No, I don't answer the phone at night.
Hello. Please leave a message after the tone.
Hello, if you're there, pick up. Mike, pick up.
Mike's not here. Told you, Mike's not here. Mike is not here. He's not been here all day. Last time I saw him was changing a tire in front of your house. Hours and hours ago. He's out running about. Sweet Corn Festival weekend. You never know where he's at. All right, I'll talk to you later. They're going to keep looking for him.
Well, my relationship with them was that they were a wholesale account of mine. That's how I had found out about Hoopeston. And when I moved here, when I was thinking of moving because I was looking to save money and everything else, they offered me space there to store my stuff. And so that's my so-called relationship with them as far as that's concerned.
It was the beginning of a discussion of being engaged. And I said, it was one of those things, if we're in a serious relationship, where are we going? He says, I asked her, would you marry me? And we began.
Please leave a message after the tone.
Hey, Ed, this is Mike's mom. Everybody says he's up at the bookstore. Sam?
Okay. We don't have a number up there Go to the back door. Yeah. Thank you. He's 20 years old!
In the 90s, I moved to Chicago and became much more involved with that real-time community. And I found a number of things that I had not expected. The first one was I found out how different the Correllian tradition was from many other traditions. The other thing, I found out the difference in the communities. And I found that a lot...
The community has a lot of casual sex. Make no bones about it. The one thing that people love about pagan Wiccan is that we're comfortable with the idea that sex is a good thing, as long as you take the proper precautions. But I've never been a casual sex person. I'm not thrilled with sex as a whole. And I'll tell you why. It's really simple. As a kid, I suffered from a certain amount of abuse with it. And then when I got in the Navy, women were thrown at us. Paid women, free women, easy women, and I had all the amount of it. By the time I got out of the Navy, I never wanted to see that sort of casual thing. I got into bondage, studying bondage for a while because it's such an emotional thing. It's such a high energy thing. It's ritual, it's format. And it's not sex per se. Everybody thinks it is. It's sexual, but it's not sex. In the majority of bondage relationships, there is never what we call a fluid transmission. What's sorely lacking in our world today is the idea of the ordeal. Testing grounds. Men are becoming tamed. Women are becoming tamed. But in that bondage community is this sort of energy, intensity of being human, being alive. And they do it through pain. I studied it for quite some time, and I actually got involved with it more than a little bit. And I eventually walked out of it because it didn't fit well with me. It didn't, it became my beliefs. I just realized that it wasn't something that I wanted to do over the long run. I have no regrets about it, but for me it was like I couldn't bring myself to hit people anymore.
When they first started the Sweet Corn Festival, it was in celebration of corn harvest and processing being over with for the year. We would get local girls around the area to come and they would seek the title of Miss Sweet Corn Sweetheart.
And since then, the Sweetheart pageant has gone to first runner-ups from state pageants, and I think at this point we have 8 girls who have gone on to be Miss America.
Today, we have grown to a point in time where we are inviting the runners-up in the state beauty pageants. They're judged on their talents, on their character, how they display themselves, and of course how they exploit themselves in an evening gown and a bathing suit. And this is America.
They pick a Miss Hoopeston every year. My daughter was Miss Hoopeston. Miss Hoopeston is selected from local girls. She acts as hostess to the queens and to the Sweetheart pageant and the Sweet Corn Festival itself.
The JCs in Hoopeston have done this for many, many years, and they're still doing it.
It's an acronym, I believe, for the Junior Chamber of Commerce. Had it not been for the JCs, there wouldn't be a Hoopeston Sweet Corn Festival. And without a Sweet Corn Festival, there probably wouldn't be much of a Hoopeston left.
We set up for the demolition derbies, the tractor pulls, and the JC members are actually the refs during the demolition derby, which is something cool. I'm looking forward to that.
Now, the big problem they do have at the Sweet Corn Festival now is people being drunk. You got a group called the JCs who say they are for the kids. They're there doing good things for the kids, but yet the only thing I've ever seen them do was sell alcohol.
We got the sandbox fill. which is you go and you get somebody with a pickup, of course, and you put up signs for the sandbox fill. Small sandbox will cost you $5 to fill it up, and that's what we do. We'll go get the sand for $5 and we'll fill up your small sandbox. Now a larger sandbox will cost you $10 or something like that, but we'll fill it up, and that'd be cheaper than going over and buying your own sand. That'd run you about $40 or so, because sand's not cheap.
The Sweet Corn Festival brings back a lot of great childhood memories. For kids around here, with our economic depression, this is the equivalency of going to a Great America or to a Six Flags. It's really a shining star, and I don't think we do enough to promote that, especially the Sweetheart pageant. It's second only to the Miss America pageant.
Tomorrow we'll have a parade. Now there'll probably be anywhere from 10 to 20,000 people packed along the streets viewing the parade as it goes through town, and that's great.
You can talk. We edit.
That's okay. You have the crystals right there? Here?
This is the one we're going to. Very.
I'm going to ask everyone to start by just taking a moment to clear and release all excess energy. Release all the tensions, all the anxieties of your day. Just let them run out of you like water, running down through your body, down through the legs, down through the soles of your feet, down through the floor, down into Mother Earth, down into the rich soil to be reused in other ways. And let us take 3 deep breaths. As we breathe in, let us breathe in the love of Goddess. And as we breathe out all limitation. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And we've come together tonight to bless these crystals for the crystal lab and to bury them.
We are the last of the planet-dwelling cavemen. Either we're going to destroy ourselves here, or we're going to escape and we're going to become another type of man out there in space.